String machines, are they changing the world? Will bowling stay the same if we start using string machines everywhere? And scoring pace. What is the perfect scoring environment in league, in tournaments, all those types of conditions? We're going to talk about that on our first podcast here with the LTC show. Stay tuned. Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for joining me here at the LTC Bowling Show. My name is J.R. Raymond. I'm your host for the show. And we're going to talk about those two subjects, the string machines and the scoring pace here today. But first, make sure to hit that subscribe and notification bell so that way you get all the notifications every time one of these new videos pop up. And please, if you enjoy the topic, if you enjoy the show, please make sure to share, spread this with all your friends. We don't have a big marketing company, so we're just trying to share the word, talk a little bit of bowling. So please help us get the word out and share this as much as you can. But today we're going to talk about string machines. I just got the new Bowler's Journal not that long ago, and it has the front cover. It says String Theory. Apparently they ran a tournament in Florida where they ran them on the string machines. A lot of people actually seem to enjoy what they experienced at that tournament. Here are some of the quotes. You got Kenny Ryan said, "I enjoyed it. It was fun." He was the winner of the Invitational there. And then Jason Couch came out and said, "I would absolutely bowl another tournament on Edge String." He made sure to use the name of the machines there so that way you could promote them a little bit. And then you had Nate Garcia says, "Great tournament, very fun, very impressed." Sean Wilcox says, "It was my first time. I would do it again." Verity Crawley, "It is still bowling, and I love to do it." So, and then the last but not least, you got Ashley Galante here saying, "It was a lot of fun." So, from the looks of it and from the sounds of it, a lot of people had a lot of fun on these machines. Now, the question is, does it change the dynamics of the sport? Does it change the way things fly? Does it, the pins fly? Does it change the way we need to look at the game as far as that goes? I mean, make sure you hit me up in the comments below. Tell me what you think about the string machines and everything that goes on there. But I personally, I'm a little indifferent on it. I think it's a really cool idea. The idea of having string machines that would require, I think the idea is to require less maintenance, less mechanic work on these machines. Maybe you just have to replace the pins a little bit more often. I'm not sure. My concern is, do the pins hit strings and knock other pins over by just hitting the strings, whereas on normal traditional lanes, the pins fly over or the other pins. I'm not sure. I did see one video that was captured where Matt Gasson made, I think it was the 2810. Don't quote me. I'm not sure. Maybe I can pull that video up. I'm not sure if I will. But if I do, you'll be seeing it, where he literally threw one in the back. It came and wrapped all the way back around and hit the other two and took them out, and it counted as a spare. I don't know if it was the strings catching each other, if the strings if they have enough slack to where they don't, pull other pins down. I'm not sure. Again, I have no experience on these machines, so I wouldn't be able to tell you exactly what is for real and how it actually works. These guys, they bowled the event. They'd be able to tell you a little bit more about it, and maybe even the people who make the machines and who design them could be able to tell us a little bit more. So maybe it would have been a good idea for me to get somebody on here with me to be able to, talk about it just a little bit. But I think it's a cool idea. I think it's going to be pretty neat. I'm not sure which direction it's going to go. Will we see? I don't know what the pricing is on them. Will we see an awful lot of centers start to switch over to them, or will we see new bowling centers switch over to these pins? I think time will tell. Or these machines, I should say. But I think it was a pretty cool event. You had an awful lot going on there at that event. I think it paid, what was it, $4,000 to win or something like that, $4,000 or $5,000. But it says here, the Some Strings Attached tournament was held at Headpins in Naples, Florida on July 25th and 26th. 65 bowlers with 20 years competitive bowling experience on average bowled 670 games. Half of the games were bowled on edge string and half on free fall spotting pit machines. Oh, I had no idea it was on both. I thought it was all on one. That's pretty cool. 65 bowlers, 222 participant bowling average. So the average was 222. 97% of the bowlers said they would bowl in another tournament with edge string spotters. So I guess I'd be curious to see who the other, 3% were who said they wouldn't want to do it again, just to see what their perspective was. So if you're one of those people and you're hearing this or you're watching this, hit me up, shoot me a message on Facebook, send me an email, and we can talk anonymous if you want. I won't use your name if you don't want your name out there. But if you don't care, I'll have you on the show and we can chat a little bit about what you think of this. But otherwise, for the most part, it looks like a lot of people had an awful lot of fun. It says here on the edge string, there was 335 games bowled. The edge string, they averaged the average score 204.7. Free fall, 335 games bowled, they averaged 203.4. So it looks like the average was a little bit higher on the pin on the string pins. I'm not sure what that was. 222 participant. Oh, so their normal bowling average was 222 was the average for all the bowlers across, and they bowled 203 on the average score for the free fall for the normal machines, and then 204, almost 205. So that's pretty cool. Only a 1.3 pin difference. Amazingly similar scoring between edge and free fall. So that's pretty neat. I guess you don't see a whole lot of difference. I wonder if that one pin will make a big difference. If it's going to be like that across the board, where you just see pins free falling or falling a little bit easier, like I had mentioned before, maybe that's what is a cause of a little bit higher average. I'm not sure. Do they fly a little bit better? I'm not sure. But I think it's going to be pretty neat to see whether people, other centers start to bring it in. My other topic here is the perfect scoring pace. There's an article written here by Jeff Goodger talking about the perfect scoring pace, and the headline here being whether the lanes are impossibly simple or simply impossible. The tournament leader is often averaging 5 to 10 pins more than the next best player. And generally that is true. And I think what happens here, when the lanes are a little bit easier, are on the softer side, generally you don't see somebody run away from the field, because you have more opportunity for bowlers to match up a lot easier, because the lanes are a little bit softer. It gives you that room to the right and room to the left, a little bit of mist room both ways. The challenge on it is always getting the pins to fall, getting the pins to cooperate and get the best carry out of the pins. So that's the challenge, is finding the right ball there. But most times when the lanes are easier, multiple bowling balls can be the right ball. Now here's the difference. When we get onto a tougher scoring pace, or when the lanes are much more difficult, now the need for matching up actually increases by that much more, because the right bowling ball versus the wrong bowling ball can make all the difference. With the right bowling ball in your hand, it gives you the room for error and the carry percentage. With the wrong bowling ball in your hand, not only do you lose the carry percentage, but you lose the room for error. If you don't have both of those, your scores are going to be much, much lower. If you have the right ball in your hand, that's when generally the person with the right bowling ball in their hand, and they're throwing the best shots, making the best execution, which, let's be real, when you have the right bowling ball in your hand, execution gets that much easier. So, that makes the scoring pace for that bowler that much higher. So generally, you'll see a little bit of a scoring difference. You won't see the big gap in the easier conditions for the most part, because everybody's got the best opportunity to have the easiest, or to have the best score, and it's a little bit easier to match up, like I said. So generally, you'll see the leaders at 240, 250. So let's call it 250, and then the cut when the scores are super high like that is generally about 235. So you've got about a 15 pin swing. Now you'll see a little bit of a gap when they're tougher. You'll see somebody or two or three people when they're tougher will match up really well, and they'll average 235. And then the cut score, because they're tougher, is going to be right around that 200 range. So you'll see almost a 35 pin swing there, because the matching up is just much more difficult to do, and having the right bowling ball in your hand is much more difficult to do when it's, the lanes are difficult. Now let's talk a little bit about why do we see some really good bowlers struggle when they're easy, and it's almost like they average the same. It's like they're going to average 215 when they're easy, they're going to average 215 when they're harder. Now, why is that? Like, I've tried to explain for my personal circumstances. Like, what happened with me was I spent so much time perfecting my game or trying to get better when they were tougher, because just about every event was on tougher conditions. When Brian Regan first started running events here in Michigan, he was one of the only ones constantly running tournaments, so they were always on tougher conditions. So my focus was to just do as well as I could there. And then at that time, I was getting ready and prepped to go to college too. So I knew they were going to be tougher conditions out there. Watching guys like Bill O'Neill, the Parashads, Jeff and Dave Parashad, and Steve Novak, Anthony Lacaze, these guys, they were watching the Saginaw Valley guys, because that's where I was wanting to go to school, watching these guys, and Bill's averaging 2.0, making All-American, and I'm like, man, these scores they're low, they're tough. And then my first year, it was the same thing. It took 2.0 to make All-American. So I focused solely on the tough conditions, and it made it to where I developed some foul line adjustments, more or less, is how I explain it, to where when I miss left, it's like I subconsciously miss it at the bottom. I don't catch it as much with my fingers. So my revolutions go down, and I'm a little bit softer with it. So that way when I miss left on the tough conditions, at most I 4-pin. I try to keep it on line a little bit better. And then when I miss right, I do catch it more. It's like, oh, crud, I'm missing to the right. I need to hook it more. I need to hurry up and grab it. And so I do, and then it gives it a chance to get back to the pocket. Now think about how that works when it's easier. Because there's such a flood in the middle of the lane, and then there's so much dry to the right. When I miss into that flood, and I miss it at the bottom, I'm going to 2-10 or 2-pin or, wash out just about every time. So my misses left don't still hit the pocket. And then when I miss right and I catch it more, because that's what my instincts are, it hits the dry and overhooks through the face for a big 4 or worse. I guess there's not much worse than a big 4, but you know what I'm saying. And it makes it very difficult. So now I feel like I've got to actually throw the ball better in a league condition than I do when they're tougher, where I've developed the ability to make room for error on the tougher conditions. It's a little bit different on the league conditions. So what you need to do most times, and why there's a lot of people that are really successful in league, is you just grab the ball and you just hit up on it. You don't need to be perfect. And you just, you basically grip and rip. And when you miss left, it's still going to hook and go through the pins. And when you miss right, it's going to, you're going to end up being in a spot where you're lined up to where when you miss right, it still hooks and still hits the pocket. So it's just a little bit different for, some of those guys. And I think a lot of guys would agree that that's the circumstance. That's what happens, is they develop their game towards the tougher conditions. Now, don't get me wrong. There are people who are very, very good on both, and they find a way to strike on both. And I praise those guys because, man, it's so hard to do. I've yet to figure out how to do both. I can't quite get myself to subconsciously forget those foul line adjustments when the lanes are a little bit softer. So I don't know. I think it's more of a mentality thing when it comes to bowling on the easier conditions versus the harder conditions. That's for sure. But as far as I'm concerned, I think for scoring pace, I don't think they need to be easy, and I don't think they need to be stupid hard, because then you talk about luck coming into play. We don't want luck coming into play. We don't want people to be throwing bad shots going Brooklyn 4 or 5 times a game, because they're so hard when you just barely miss and it just goes crazy. To where whoever gets lucky the most ends up, making the cut and running away. We want it to be fair. We want the misses we want a little bit of a miss left to be, 4-pin or, 4-7, fast 8 or something. And we want a little bit of a miss right be 2-pin or 2-10 or something like that. Not washouts or 3 off the right and stuff like that. So we want the scoring pace to kind of be in the middle. I've always said, I think 220 is a pretty good score. You start getting cuts to be around that 220 range, or between 210 and 220, I think that's pretty perfect. Anything below that starts to bring in a little bit of luck, and anything above that, it's all about having the right ball in your hand. Now, again, this is just my opinion. That's just how I see it. So what I want you guys to do is I want you guys to go and comment below. Let me know what you think, and kind of just have some conversations with your friends. Let's talk about this for a little bit. What do you think the perfect scoring pace is? We'll look at this here and kind of just have just a small conversation about it. But like I said, please make sure to subscribe, hit that like button, and that notification bell to make sure you get all the notifications for every time we come out with a video. Tournaments coming up in your region for the PBA. We're going to try to give you a list of the events that are coming up here shortly. At least every so often when we get the new Bowler's Journal, I'm going to fill you in with some of the new events. Coming up in the Central region, you have the PBA Boss Snowplows Ebonite Central Open, September 11th to the 13th at Pinhead's Family Fun Center. That's in Fishers, Indiana. I don't remember what pattern they're bowling on, so I can't really fill you in on that. And then right after that, it's the PBA Bluffton Central Open. That is at Easy Bowl. That's at EJ Tackett's house. Him and his dad and his brother running that place down in Bluffton, Indiana. That is on September 18th to the 20th. I will be at that one. I won't be able to make the Central Region September 11th to the 13th because Brian Regan is hosting an event. I don't remember where it's at, but on the 12th, it is the Sprummer Championship for the MSBS tournaments, paying pretty good money. He's got $2,500 added there. Head over to scratchbowling.com to get the information on any of the bowling tournaments that Brian Regan runs, pba.com for any of the events that PBA runs. In the East region, you've got the PBA AMF Towson Lanes Eastern Open. That's September 13th at AMF Towson Lanes. That's in Towson, Maryland. And then Midwest region has the PBA Bowlers Mart Midwest Open, September 12th at Bolero Lakeside in Valley Park, Missouri. And then in the Northwest region, you've got the PBA Paradise Lanes, and that actually is mixed with the West region. That is a Northwest West Open. So it's going to be the PBA Paradise Lanes Northwest West Open. It's at Paradise Lanes in Tacoma, Washington. And then in the South region, you're going to see PBA Fayetteville South Open, September 11th to the 13th. That is going to be at Lafayette Lanes in Fayetteville, North Carolina. And that rounds out your PBA events. Again, make sure to head over to pba.com, check out all the events that they have over there. The regional tour, it's a perfect opportunity for those who don't have a whole lot of experience and they want to learn and they want to just get that competitive edge. They want to learn to be in the competitive environment. That is the best opportunity for people. So if you're not a PBA member, I would definitely recommend getting your PBA membership and joining and bowling as many of these as you can. They can get a little bit pricey, but for the experience that you get getting to bowl with a lot of national tour guys and then some of the really, really good regional guys, it's definitely worth the experience. It's definitely worth the money to get that experience out there. And then make sure head over to scratchbowling.com and do check out the MSBS events because Brian runs some of the best events in the country. He's moving them around. He's got them in Ohio right now because Michigan's closed. He's run a bunch of them in Ohio, in the Toledo area, Indiana, and I'm not sure if he's gone anywhere else other than that, but I know he is. Illinois. I think he's been over to Illinois as well. So make sure to check that stuff out. But this is the end of the episode for podcast number 1. This is the first episode. Stay tuned for podcast number 2 coming shortly at you. But my name is J.R. Raymond with the LTC Bowling Show. And until next time, guys, we're signing out. We'll see you later.